You feel broke even though you have money, or rich while secretly drowning in debt. This isn't a math error. It is an estimation drift where your memory lies to you about what you actually own and owe. Today, we fix the opacity with a three-part diagnostic that classifies every dollar into liquid, sleeping, or trap states so you can finally see your true financial standing without anxiety. The primary failure mode in most personal finance systems isn't a lack of income, but this estimation drift where users rely on memory rather than actual transaction logs to gauge their health. You might think you have $10,000 available because that is the number you remember seeing last month, yet when you need cash for an emergency, it vanishes into subscriptions or hidden fees. This creates a false sense of security until a sudden cash flow mismatch occurs and forces a crisis response. The solution requires treating your financial status like a rigorous system health check rather than a hopeful guesswork exercise. To begin the audit, we must categorize every asset you hold using a latency versus utility matrix, similar to how data is tiered in modern computing systems. Liquid assets are those with low latency but high maintenance costs. Your checking account and cash under the mattress fall here because they provide instant access when bills arrive or emergencies strike. However, these funds often sit idle earning nothing while inflation slowly erodes their purchasing power year after year. They are essential for survival but dangerous as a long-term storage strategy if left unmanaged. In contrast, sleeping assets represent high latency with the potential for high yield. This category includes your retirement accounts, index fund portfolios, and real estate holdings that you do not need to touch immediately. These funds require time to grow because they are designed to compound over decades rather than days. The friction here is psychological. Many viewers feel a sense of loss when money leaves their checking account for these long-term vehicles, even though this separation is what builds generational wealth. You must accept that accessing sleeping assets takes effort and often incurs tax penalties if taken out before maturity dates are reached. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. The third category is the most dangerous because it masquerades as an asset while functioning as a drain on your resources. These trap assets have hidden operational overheads such as depreciation, maintenance costs, or carrying fees that generate no return while actively consuming cash flow. A car you do not need to drive for work, gadgets bought with credit cards just before the interest compounds, or subscriptions you forgot about are all traps in disguise. They look like ownership on paper but function as liabilities that reduce your net worth over time without providing utility. The statistics show a stark reality where financial stress often stems from this mismatch between income and tracked spending rather than total revenue generation. Many people cannot cover emergency expenses not because they earn too little, but because their trap assets are silently bleeding capital while they believe they are building wealth through the accumulation of goods that lose value daily. This behavioral trade-off means that even with a decent salary, the system fails if you fail to identify which items in your life are actually costing you money rather than earning it for you. There is also a critical architectural constraint known as the financial independence threshold, where many systems crash due to an active dependency layer masking the true load of self-sufficiency. You may feel financially stable while still relying on parental support or family safety nets that cover your major expenses, creating a false equilibrium in your personal balance sheet. This state often prevents you from declaring independence and stopping the cycle of financial reliance until a forced migration occurs when those external supports are removed by circumstance or policy changes. The psychological barrier to admitting one's true standing is significant because it requires confronting the reality that generic advice has failed to bridge the gap between feeling rich and being solvent. Experts emphasize the necessity of self-sufficiency, yet billions are spent on financial literacy programs without solving the core issue, the emotional friction of auditing your life honestly. You must be willing to look at every account and ask if it is liquid, sleeping, or a trap, accepting that some items you love might actually be holding you back from true stability. This diagnostic framework moves beyond generic budgeting, which often focuses only on cutting expenses without addressing the structural composition of your wealth. By actively auditing where money goes rather than relying on estimates, you can begin to shift resources from traps into sleeping assets while maintaining enough liquid capital for immediate needs. This realignment stops the anxiety of not knowing your true financial standing because every dollar now has a defined role and purpose in your economic system. The efficacy of this model is contingent on your ability to overcome the emotional resistance to confronting your actual financial standing, which generic advice often fails to bridge by focusing solely on income increases or savings rates without addressing asset quality. You might find that you have more sleeping assets than realized, or conversely, a higher number of traps draining your potential for growth. The goal is not just to count what you own, but to understand the velocity and utility of every single unit of capital in your possession. Once this classification is complete, you gain the clarity needed to make decisions that align with long-term security rather than short-term comfort. You stop feeling like a passenger in your own financial life and start operating as the architect who understands where leverage exists and where friction is destroying value. This shift from estimation drift to verified data allows you to build a system that works for you, regardless of market conditions or economic instability affecting the broader population. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.